We've been we have now been in a pandemic for so long that there are movies starting to come out about being stuck in pandemic. Lockdown, available on HBO now, starring Chiwetel Ejiofor and Anne Hathaway, with cameos literally done over Zoom by Ben Kingsley, Ben Stiller, and Stephen Merchant. It was marketed as a quirky comedy about a couple being stuck in their house during the lockdown in London who attempt to execute a heist in Harrods and steal an expensive diamond. And while technically all those things are true, I do think there's an element of false advertising in that, mainly because of how much time passes before we even get to the planning of the heist, let alone executing it. For the majority of the runtime, the movie has nothing to do with a heist film. It is just a couple who live together despite not wanting to, because just before lockdown they decided to break up. But now they can't move, so they have to tolerate one another for an unspecified amount of time. He's a delivery driver out of job, going crazy because of the loneliness and inability to hop on his motorcycle and drive away, escaping into poetry as a sort of coping mechanism. She's a successful CEO of a company dealing in jewelry, still working remotely. And so it's mostly just two people in a house attending various Zoom calls and Zoom meetings and Skype calls and slowly going insane until at last they come up with this plan to use the opportunity that fate has given them and steal a diamond that's worth £3 million. Now, to be fair, the way this new reality is shown is fairly accurate, but I think ironically, this is the movie's largest problem. See, it's supposed to make us laugh about situations like Zoom calls where children suddenly invade, or someone is lagging, or the sound is not working, about joining official meetings dressed nicely from the waist up but in pajama pants on the bottom, about not knowing what to do with yourself during the lockdown, about rethinking your life choices, about drinking more alcohol, smoking cigarettes, in general, going back to your old habits. Problem is, it's kind of difficult to laugh at those situations when you know that this is still going on. That as soon as the movie ends, you will experience those exact situations yourself. So instead of having a laugh, I felt tortured by the film. It was like the filmmakers were showing me the everyday life of the past almost year now and saying, ha, this is really funny in a frustrating kind of way. I know, I'm living it. I want I want escapism in movies, not a documentary on what's going on in my life. And maybe it wouldn't hurt as much if the presented situations were more outlandish, more obviously comedic, with the comedy dialed way up to really go hard on the absurdism. But the movie doesn't really do that. It mostly stays fairly grounded in reality. And as such, it is insanely boring. It just goes on and on and on and on, and nothing of interest happens until the final 20 minutes, which are finally the heist itself. And even that isn't executed very well. A good heist sequence should be exciting. There should be tension. I want to be on the edge of my seat, wondering, can they get away with it or will they fail? And whenever something goes wrong, I'm like, oh no, what's going to happen now? I didn't get engaged whatsoever with this one. The heist itself continues to be very uneventful and boring, and there's a distinct lack of creativity in the crafting that entire sequence. Now, to be fair, the movie isn't completely awful. Chiwetel Ejiofor is great as this tortured guy, so exhausted with the situation he's in. Very enjoyable performance. Anne Hathaway also brings a sort of frantic energy to the role, but I thought her performance is kind of overshadowed by the fact that her character is used as a vehicle to deliver several speeches criticizing, capitalism and corporations and so on, which they're not wrong in what they're saying, but they are very unsubtle and feel forced. Some of the jokes really do land. Some of the cameos are cool. Stephen Merchant and Ben Kingsley come to mind, especially, even though they were literally shot over Zoom or Skype, and the quality is exactly as poor as you would expect, which, yeah, fits in with the reality, but because of that, it is really fucking frustrating. But at the end of the day, there's just not enough good stuff to carry the film. I found it way too boring, uneventful, irritating, and in general, pretty soulless. Don't recommend checking it out.